Hi, windy today. Following my recent viewing of Poltergeist 2 The Other Side, this weekend I watched Poltergeist 3, released in 1989 and directed by Gary Sherman, whose previous film Deathline is regarded as a British horror classic, and I've covered previously on the podcast. In this film, we have only two surviving members of the original cast, Heather O'Rourke as young Carol Ann, and the mysterious mystic woman who keeps an eye on her, and whose name I have forgotten. Carol Ann has been sent away from her family to live in Chicago with her aunt and uncle and step cousin in their large skyscraper building so that she can attend a school for the gifted. However, the headmaster of the school thinks that she has some kind of hypnotic power that she's exerting over people because there can't possibly be any such thing as supernatural monsters when hypnosis is around. And Carol Ann finds herself once again being stalked by the mysterious and evil Reverend Kane, leader of the weird death cult from the previous film. Um, it's not a good film, and it's very much following the tradition of the first two in being pretty much incoherent and not scary, and no having having no real center or focus to it. It does have a well. That said, it does have a little more focus than the first film because it's still focusing on the villain character of Reverend Kane, who wants Carol Ann to take him into the light to lead him to the other side or something. I don't really know what the point of that or the motivation is. The film is notable for the string of deaths that was attributed to the series as a whole. Dominique Dunn, who played the older daughter of the Freeling family in the first film, was murdered shortly after the film was released. Julian Beck, who played Kane in the second film, was terminally ill during production and died shortly afterwards, while Heather O'Rourke died of surgical complications despite being only 12 years old, shortly after the third film had completed filming. And care was taken during the film's promotion to avoid capitalizing on that in any way. An unusually ethical stance taken by MGM at the time. It is, in places, very well directed. There's a use all the way through the movie of mirrors, of mirrored corridors, mirrored rooms, and split screen elements of things that are in the mirror not being reflected in real life and vice versa. Um, Multiple bubbles and people reaching out of mirrors and disappearing into them, and it's surprisingly thorough use of that one conceit and done extremely well and extremely effectively. The visual effects being used, I thought, were very sharply produced and very effective. But it comes down to the story just being dull and incoherent and hard to follow. There's some surprising star power. We have Tom Skerritt and Nancy Allen as the aunt and uncle, and Lara Flynn Boyle as the cousin. But it barely ever leaves the tower block. The character of the headmaster is just an arbitrary skeptic who disbelieves what's going on because the plot requires him to do so. It's really very tired, and I think trying to squeeze a third film out of this was a mistake, as was probably trying to squeeze a second, because I've now seen all four Poltergeist films, the original three films and the remake, and they're all in their own way quite bad. I would say Poltergeist 3 is probably the best, simply because of Sherman's directorial flair and his interest in giving the film a bit of visual life and the use of those mirrors to create an unearthly sense to a lot of scenes. It seems like he's putting more effort in than any of the other directors did. It's competently acted, it's competently made, it's a studio production with a reasonable budget, so it's hard to get that kind of thing wrong. But overall, it's worth maybe watching a highlight reel of the mirror shots. But pretty much like the rest of the Poltergeist films, this is extremely avoidable.